Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Antonio Buchanan. Antonio is the co-CEO and Chief Strategy Officer. He spent his career influencing some of the world's top brands. His career took off at Y&amp Worldwide, where he quickly became a vice president of strategic planning working on American Express, Citigroup, Verizon, Evian, Disney, and Club Med. He then served as a senior partner and head of strategy and planning at Ogilvy Worldwide's American Express and IBM Global Business, with assignments in Mexico City, London, Singapore, Brazil, and Sao Paolo. In 1998, Antonio and his partner, Paris, formed Bang Zoom, a global research and strategy consultancy with offices in San Francisco, Chicago, and London. Their firm oversaw research initiatives for 3Com, Lucent, BBC, Avaya, American Express, and others before selling the company to MDC Partners, a Toronto-based communications holding company. Antonio has been named one of the top creative thinkers by AdAge, named on the top innovative thinkers list for Wallpaper magazine, and one of the top 100 executives on Black Enterprise's BE 100 list. So without further delay, plug your earphones in, sit back, relax, and let's jump right into this conversation with Antonio. Welcome, Antonio.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Excellent. Okay, could you share a little bit about your journey, how it is you got to where you are today, so we can get a better understanding of who Antonio is?
Sure. I actually started in the financial services industry. I was working as a trader at Merrill Lynch, and the ad agency for Merrill Lynch was coming in to do a campaign on the company. And I was one of the people that was designated to be interviewed by the ad agency. And after that experience, I kind of looked at it and went, they seem to be having more fun than I am. And so I literally switched careers and started from the bottom again. Like you said, started at Y&R, then moved on to Ogilvy. I spent a significant amount of my career at Ogilvy with a lot of international assignments, and then decided to start my own. We've done it. This is the second time around. The first time, as you said, we started an agency, and about 3 years in, we were approached to sell it. And when our non-compete was over, on the day the non-compete was over, we launched Antonio in Paris. So I'm the chief strategy officer. Paris, who's also my wife, is the chief creative officer. Her experience comes out of McCann Worldwide on Microsoft. And so I kind of do the strategy side. She does the creative side. And we've been having a great time doing it. So it's good to be here.
All right. So I can imagine strategy has been a bit challenging, maybe for you and your company during this pandemic period that the world is going through. Can you share with us how that has been and how you guys have been able to navigate through this time?
That's an understatement. So it's been interesting, but I think, I think like everybody, February, March of last year, everybody kind of went into a panic mode. Our clients went into a panic mode, rightfully so. Not many people knew, what do I do now, right? Business kind of stopped over that period of time. And we made the decision to really look at, we could have stayed with how do we continue to help companies enhance their brands. But that wasn't the right thing to do at that particular time. I think the right thing to do in hindsight was the fact that we decided that we were going to look at when was there something like this in the past, and how was it handled globally, and what should we be thinking about. So we decided to start a research study globally during COVID that every 6 to 8 weeks we would go back into the marketplace and get indication on what were consumers thinking, what were they feeling, how engaged were they, how much more engaged Were they going to be as it related to streaming videos and entertainment and working from home, and what were their stress points, and all of those things that we could kind of give that information to clients, and gauge when was the right time to get back into the marketplace. We also then started talking, and we started presenting this to clients and people who weren't clients, people who, companies that we would have loved to work with. We set up calls with them, Zoom calls with them, things like that, and walk them through these results. We also talked to them about, let's talk about history. As I said, when SARS happened, we had a front row seat into being able to see what happened in China and how it went from China, the resurgence and the comeback happened in Asia, through Europe, and then to the United States. So we had a roadmap of how it happened. And so we were able to talk to people about, it's probably going to happen the same way, which it did. You know, we had the bounce back in Asia first, then Europe, then the US. Unfortunately, we had a second round of COVID. But there's this thing about, this is the perfect time for companies to kind of really think about how they're going to attack, right? How they're going to pivot, and change maybe something small all the way to their business model. So we started talking to companies about that. If you were to start your company today, how would you change it? Because it's not going to ever be the same again. So we started working with companies and helping them change their company from a strategy perspective too. So it's been an interesting ride, but I think it was the right thing to do, because many companies, us helping them figure a lot of that out.
Right. So where are you exactly based, Antonio? Are you in the United States?
We are in San Diego. Currently, I'm in our Mexico City office. We've been working out of Mexico now for probably the past 6 months, but our headquarters is in San Diego.
Okay. Do you find that it's been difficult, just getting people motivated and inspired during this time, especially across cultures, because Mexico City, would you say, is a different kind of culture, different set of mindsets, people versus those in San Diego? And I mean, has it been different across the globe, in a different continent, for example?
Yeah, what's interesting is about 5 years ago, we completely virtual. So prior to COVID, we went virtual. The reason why we did it was because, for a few reasons. One, we wanted to get the most talented people that we could get to work for our company, no matter where they lived. And so that meant getting more senior people. But in getting more senior people, it was good that they didn't have to uproot themselves. A lot of times, as you want to hire somebody and they're in another place and they don't want to move. Their kids are in certain schools, or their spouses or partners are in, kind of trenched in where they are, so they're unable to move. But they're the right candidate for your company, right? From a culture perspective and from a talent perspective. And we wanted that to go away. So we went completely virtual 5 years ago. So it's funny because we were using Zoom before people knew what Zoom was. And that was one reason. The other reason is because it's a point that you're making. We thought that, and it's turned out to be true, the culture, if we brought people into our organization from around the world, no idea would be US centric, or, if I'm in Hong Kong centric, or things like that. But the ideas that the agency would bring to our clients would kind of be from this diverse group of people, diverse culture, with different attitudes and opinions. And when you sit down to try to solve a problem, and all of these people come to the table, you kind of ensure that you're coming at this from a global perspective with an open mind. And then when you start to take these ideas from one country to another, we happen to have people who understand exactly the way that people look into the consumer insight from country to country. So that's helped a lot too, in terms of that. But it's a good question, because I think so often people come to you're an American company and you come at it from an American perspective as opposed to being sensitive to other people's ethnicities and cultures.
Agreed. Do you guys do business in Jamaica?
We do not, and you know it's funny too. My family is from Jamaica and Panama,
Hmm.
and we don't do business there, but I would not have a problem doing business there at all.
So you should probably look to expand. Now is a great time to expand into new markets, especially with everybody doing things virtually.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so could you share with us, Antonio, if there is one website tool or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
It probably is Zoom because of I you have to imagine we probably have in our organization, me alone, I don't even know what other people are doing. I probably have 8 to 10 Zoom calls a day, and they're with people from all over the world. Because we have clients in Belgium, we have clients in Hong Kong and in London and in the US and Mexico and things like that. So it's a challenge where it used to be a challenge before, right? I had to get on a plane and go and do all of that. Now it's a different challenge in terms of time zones and things, but it makes life easier. But I think that's the one thing that's one. Another one would be Basecamp. We use Basecamp in order to kind of give clients transparency. So when we get a new client, for instance, we just signed on a new client a couple of days ago who's based in Hong Kong. One of the first things we do is open up a Basecamp file for them. And that gives them, it's kind of a pod, and that gives them the opportunity to drop anything that's relevant about their business into that pod. It also gives us the opportunity to anything that we do for them put into the pod. If there's schedules, we put those in there as well. And clients have the ability to go in, look at the schedules, make sure things are happening when they're supposed to be happening, or if we need input from them, they can go there instead of having to deal if it's 2 o'clock in the morning our time, but someplace else it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They can go to Basecamp and pretty much get a lot of answers before even having to speak to us. So I think those two are pretty valuable.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Could you share with us, Antonia, as well, maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, or it could be a book that you read recently, but it has had a great impact on you.
Yeah, I think Bob Iger's book, The Ride of a Lifetime, this former CEO of Disney,
Mm-hmm.
amazing book, gives us the ability to kind of look into a lot of the challenges that he had in growing Disney. And I like to tell people, whether you're a large organization or small, many of the challenges that you face are the same. It's just the size of the company. And so, how he handled growth and strategy, and how he handled disappointment. What I love is he puts a lot of the disappointments in there. Times that Disney tried to do something and failed. That's really important to me because I want to see how you can imagine it's kind of cool knowing that Disney fails at something, but more importantly, how do they handle it? So that's one. The other one is Barack Obama's book, A Promised Land. Fascinating, but also as a business person, when you look at it, the strategy and the planning that goes into running for the president of the United States is very similar to in a business when you're trying to launch something
Mm-hmm.
and everything that he had to go through, both from a personal perspective, which we can then, move over to as an entrepreneur, you go through some personal things too to get your business up and running. To, from a business perspective, who are the right people that you're going to build for your team? Just like he had to go through, what's the team he's going to pull together to help him win the election? And so I think that's a fascinating book. And then I'm reading now. Reid Hastings book, the CEO of Netflix. There's no rules, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's literally you don't have to follow any of the rules. Create what's right for you,
Mm-hmm.
which he did, and a lot of people talked a lot of smack about him. But now look who's laughing now because he created an organization that was right for him and believed in it, and it's worked pretty well. So
Yeah.
those are kind of the three.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. We'll definitely have the links in the show notes of this episode for those books for any of our listeners that want to tap into that great content. We also have a lot of listeners, Antonio, who are business owners and managers who feel from time to time that it's not that they have poor products. They believe they have great products and services. But one of their challenges is that they lack the constantly motivated human capital. So if you were in a room with one of these managers or business owners and you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to improve on the consistency of having motivated human capital?
Yeah, it's we have a tendency to break rules with our organization, and we do it not just because we do it because we stop and we put ourselves in the situation of before you were an entrepreneur, you worked for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you thought of the good and the bad with it, and how you wanted to be treated. It's more than motivation just from a salary perspective and a dollars and cents perspective, right? It's I'm respected. They understand that there's some other things that could help. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. On during the summer on Fridays, every other Friday we shut our business down. And the reason for that is people get 3-day weekends during the summer. Um,
Nice.
and if it's busy, and a lot of people go, well, I can't do that because I can't have my whole staff out. My advice would be if it's busy, split your staff in half and don't do half days because people end up not taking them. But split your staff in half and go, okay, this week on Friday, you guys are off. And then the next week, the other half is off.
Mm-hmm.
But you're giving them a head nod to, um, in order to be productive, you need to be able to have time to think, experience, to live, to have balance. And when you give employees balance, when they feel like you trust them, um, a lot of times that's more important than the dollars and the cents. You can go to another company and make more money, maybe, but will you get the feeling that these people respect me and get it? Another thing we do is we don't have vacation time in our organization. If you need to take the time, take the time, um, and realize you're part of a team. So we hire grown-ups, and I think that's one of the things that you need to do is make sure you're hiring grown-ups. Make sure you're hiring people, you know what I mean, that are passionate about what they do and they know that you brought them in. If you hire people like that, then I don't care if you take days off or what you're doing and things like that because those people overdo it anyway. Those people give you their heart and soul anyway, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you need to take a day off to be with your kid, to be with your partner, whatever. Go do it. And I don't care how much time it is, as long as your teammates are respected and they know that they're going to have to cover for you or whatever that is. So I think that the big thing is respect who you're working for. Think about what you would want if you were a dedicated employee, a dedicated player in an organization. What are the things that would matter? And I think these days, especially with what's going on with COVID and everything else, it's that how can you give people work-life balance? They're going to give it back to you. You know, when they go and they have a vacation, they come back fresh,
Yeah.
and you benefit from it too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I would tell people.
All right. Now, Antonio, could you share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? It could be something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Um, Actually, it's something that we're doing with a client. That's really exciting. And it has something to do with our people too, because our people are so excited about doing this that it's taken kind of the agency to a next level. We have a client that is a museum. They're one of the largest museums in the United States. And they came to us and said, we're about to celebrate a fairly significant birthday, and we want to overhaul our brand. So the logo, what the messaging is, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We went and did some consumer research and realized that there were a couple of segments that they were missing out on, and they would never get, quite honestly, because this segment is a segment that is not going to walk through the doors of a museum, but they're more than likely going to. They want to deal on a digital basis more than walk through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went back to the client and said, well, here's what you asked us for in the first place. But if you're open, we have an idea. And they was like, what's the idea? And we said, we think that you should not see yourselves as a museum, but see yourselves as a content provider. And you should have a streaming service like a Netflix, like a Hulu, like something like that, that's specific to the type of museum that you are. And that's a whole new revenue stream. That's a whole new way of looking at the customer experience because the customer experience is no longer when somebody walks through the door. Now the customer experience is 365, 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually went, let's present it to the board, which I thought that that head of marketing had a lot of nerve to be able to go, yep, I'm with you. Let's take it to the board of directors, and which we did, and the board said, we agree, go. And so since then, for the last 2 years, we've been helping them build out this streaming service, and it's been really exciting. But what's happened is that it's pulled the team together with their team internally because it's this thing that's never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my clients said, when I'm done with this, I'm retired. That's it. What am I going to do that's going to beat this after I'm done with this? And that's a good feeling that you have clients that'll give you the opportunity to kind of swing for the fences.
Nice. Awesome. So, Antonio, our listeners listen to this episode and they're quite intrigued with what you're doing. They want to connect with you further. They want to follow more of your journey. Where can they find you online?
Sure. Our website is antonioandparis.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at APBMoxie, MOXIE. You can find me there.
All right. Okay, so we'll have those links and handles for Antonio's website and his platform for Instagram in the show notes of this episode for you guys to connect. So before we wrap our interviews up, Antonio, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to maybe get you refocused and just get you back on track.
Yeah, I have a signature on my email that says rules. I'm just not that interested. And it reminds me of don't keep yourself in a box. A lot of times, and don't look at things and say, well, it hasn't been done before, so I guess it can't be done because somebody would have done it. That's not true.
Right.
We all bring something different to the table. I like to tell the story like Apple, when they created the iPod was not the first gadget like that. And I don't know your listeners how old they are. There were MP3 players before and doing pretty much the same thing. And someone would have probably looked at Apple and said, why do you need to do this? There's already a lot of them in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, we don't hear about the iPod. We hear about the iPhone.
Yeah.
And so break the rules. If you're passionate about it, ignore the naysayers and just do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good stuff. So we'll have that quote definitely for our listeners in the show notes of this episode. Thank you for sharing, Antonio. So again,
Thank you.
thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to hop on this podcast with us today and share all of these great nuggets and wisdom and just, sharing your journey and giving us great insight into how it is that we can really strategize and innovate and enhance the quality of our customer experience and the quality of the lives of our customers. We really appreciate you taking time to jump on here with us today.
And Yannick, one more thing. I'm going to make it a point. You reminded me to get a client in Jamaica because I'm cocky and selfish, so it's time.
Yes, our signature dish. I'm surprised you don't have a client in Jamaica with Jamaican parents. People love Jamaica.
I just need to. I love the food too much. I need to be there.
Awesome. So when you come, for sure, hit me up.
Definitely.
All right. Okay, well, guys, just wanted to remind you to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. Thank you for listening to Navigating the Customer Experience. If you'd like to connect with us even more, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. And of course, feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.